I see a lot of people doing this on YouTube where they talk about something personal and then have gameplay behind. So I'm gonna do that as well. Enjoy my Minecraft footage while I talk about stuff that I've been trying to talk about for a while now. So I'm recording this, and I think I'm gonna have a hard time talking about this, but I've been wanting to speak and just verbalize my thoughts and feelings during this past semester for a while now, but it's been really hard to materialize it because the moment I start feeling bad and I start disassociating or overthinking and spiraling, what I tend to do is find a good distraction that can be listening to music that makes me feel a little differently, or, going outside, or staying inside and scrolling until my brain forgets everything that I was thinking so deeply about. But the thing is, that doesn't really help. All that really does is put a very temporary cap on these problems that your brain repeatedly comes back to. For example, something that I always think about is not being able to stay a grounded person, someone who can really appreciate the present, feel situated in my surroundings, etc. This is really hard to talk about for some reason. But when I say I struggle with feeling grounded, what I mean is that it's hard for me to face reality well. And it's hard for me to live with my own thoughts or with myself in a mentally healthy manner. It's the beginning of spring break, meaning I have a week off from college. And honestly, me alongside all of my friends, we all really needed this because midterms just ended. And so that means we get to relax at least a little. But a lot of them have gone back home, either to see family or friends, which means a lot of them went out of state. And so I'm currently alone in my suite, and I live with my closest friends. And I didn't realize how hard it is to be alone. For the longest time, I never had what I feel like are truly good friends in person. I have made friends with good people before, people that I can still appreciate now. When I think back to when I was 14 or 15, I I do kind of miss my friends from back then, but because my school life was so unpleasant for me and those friends were from school, every time I came back home from school, I'd immediately try to forget about everything that goes on in that environment, which means forgetting that my friends really exist. And something that I did at that age, but I also did a few years before that, starting from I think age 11, very young, I would escape into online social media circles quite a lot. It started with this forum website, anime forum website, and there was just this excitement that came with receiving messages from anonymous people that I could potentially become friends with. And I really, really hung on to that and would escape into those feelings. The problem is that just leaves you in a state that's completely or almost detached from reality. When you're too immersed in the conversations you have with people online, which I would say made up most of my social life from ages 11 to 18, it is really hard to look back at that time, because sometimes I get really scared that I'll go back to becoming like that, really lonely and desperate for this sense of attention and community that I'm always too shy and scared to try to find in person. I've gotten a lot luckier now, because the moment I entered university, I didn't really expect it, but I made some pretty life-changing friends. And for the first time ever in my life, I mean, for the first time in years, I felt an active need and desire to hang out with these people. I would stop really caring about how I looked. I mean, you comb your hair, you try your best to look presentable before you go and hang out with your friends. And there have been times, a lot of times before, when I was younger, that if I was even a little discontent with my presentation, I would immediately shut down and quickly text my friends that I can't make it. And, just talk to people online instead, because it's so much easier to hide behind a screen. But now, that fear is, even if I don't really like how I look, it doesn't really matter, because the happiness and the grounding feeling I get from hanging with people in real life is so important to me that I can get over my self-image, at least for the few hours that we are together. But currently, none of my friends are around, and I just have to think about how I can get through each day without falling into the temptations of talking too much to people online or staying inside my dorm for too long. I'm terrified of becoming a hermit again and losing my grip on reality, because I'm already somebody who zones out quite often. I love to daydream. It's one of the most self-soothing things I can do for myself. And the thing is, I know it's dangerous. And it's not gonna help me if I completely go into that mode, So I told myself, sure, my friends aren't around. I'm a bit too shy to start up new conversations with strangers on the street or whatever. But there is one thing I can do, and that is simply go out, stay a little connected to nature, just see things that are happening outside, feel the sun on my skin at least for a little time, and, feel present in the moment. I just came back from kind of zoning out at the park. It's a public garden 30 minutes away from me walking. And today there were a bunch of geese just munching away at the grass. And I was walking back from a place that I had just eaten at, and I was walking across that garden, and I didn't want to leave because I was so terrified of coming back into my dorm and feeling closed off and like the same person I was back when I was 11 to 18. And so I just stood at one spot in the garden and I watched these geese munching away, because simply looking at, their feet, their feathers, and hearing them just like eat was so grounding. You can't stare at other humans like that without getting judged. And so that's where I think animals really can help, because you can just stare at them and no one's really gonna judge. Because, animals can be entertaining. It made me feel a little less lonely, and it made me feel as if I'm truly present in reality. So, circling all the way back to what I was saying before, even though I am alone and I'm too shy to talk to new people IRL, I think it's important that I just stay outside. Stay outside alone, that's fine, but go into public places where I can hear other people bustling around or talking. And even if I'm not involved in their conversations, simply being able to see them from the periphery of my eyesight, I think is a very important thing. And I'm also something that I've been trying to do since I think last academic year was try to hit 10k steps each day. That was made kind of impossible for at least the first half of this semester because temperatures are very low and the wind is quite harsh in my city, and so I'm not able to walk pleasantly. My brain is immediately prioritizing getting back inside as soon as my classes are over. But what that does is leave me in that hermit state that I'm so terrified of completely relapsing into. Fortunately, the weather is warming up now, so I feel as if I could go each day for the spring break, hitting maybe 10k steps. So I feel very good about that. As I said before, I am very into anime. Maybe not as much as when I was younger, because I think to be super into any source of any kind of media, especially online, requires you to feel a little discontent with reality. I might be projecting a little here, but especially as a kid, when I was trying to avoid my school life or think too much about anything else, I was really delving deep into anime and finding a space and community surrounding that form of media. So what I'm trying to say is that I've been thinking a lot about, if any of you know Hideaki Anno, and I forgot his name, one second. The Studio Ghibli guy. Hayao Miyazaki? Yes. I've been thinking a lot about things that Hayao Miyazaki and Hideaki Anno have said. And if you don't know who Hideaki Anno is, he's the man who directed the show Neon Genesis Evangelion. Not one of my favorite shows. In fact, it was so disturbing to get through, but I have watched it and I can appreciate it to an extent. But these two have said things that have really stuck in my mind and have made me even more motivated to just get outside, see real people, remember that life is beyond the screen. So I'm gonna pull up some quotes because I just want to yap about it. And this is from Hayao Miyazaki. It's a quote in which he talks about how the anime industry suffers because it's full of otaku. Otaku means a young person who is obsessed with online related popular culture or media, and that becomes a detriment to their social skills. And so what he said was along the lines of anime suffering because the people who make it can't stand observing real people. And I think about this a lot because a lot of people like to live in fantasy land, including me sometimes. They go into these delusions about who the perfect love could be or who the perfect friend can be, and then forget how real people behave in real life, in a coffee shop, in a park, in a classroom, in actual physical surroundings that we all live in, regardless of whether we like it or not. So yeah, do with that quote what you will. I would just say that it was really impactful to my way of thinking, and it has changed how I behave. It keeps me from, it's like a slap to the face, but a really good, kind slap to the face, What really struck me is that these are two old men within the industry who hold a very specific contempt for otakus, or boys who display incelish behavior. And if you know what incel stands for, it basically means involuntary celibate. So people who just get no game, basically. But I think the term has expanded a lot more in a cultural sense and kind of encapsulates people who just tend to be really online in general. But even if they have gotten game, they display behaviors that seem very incongruent to somebody who would be well immersed in reality and in talking to other people IRL. Now, see, I'm a lesbian. I'm a brown lesbian. I have good friends in real life. I am quite engaged with my campus life. I am part of 2 clubs for which I do a little bit of work for here and there, talk to other people, go to my classes quite regularly, try not to stay inside for too long, but I feel as if my developmental years being so dominated by online spheres has truly fucked me up. Even though I have good friends now and I enjoy hanging out with them and I like to talk to them, I get this irrational fear that I might be a little weird or I might be a bit too awkward, even though there's so many people who are super socially awkward in real life. I get really scared of being somebody who comes off as, I don't know, an incel? Not that I have any misogynistic thoughts, but yeah, when you stay in those circles, especially as a kid, you know, like anime forum websites, it truly shows you these mindsets that you just could never think of. You know, you see these men especially post stuff about women and about minuscule social or IRL phenomenon that they struggle with, and I'm really scared of becoming that kind of person. I really, really am. Especially because, okay, I've recently started getting back in contact with one of my good online friends who I've known for nearly a decade now. It's been 9 years. And I know him from that website. And he's a good person, mind you. He's nice. He's not an. I would not say he's an incel by any means. He's progressive. He's a white boy, but he is pretty progressive. But he's so online. He's so online in a way that I just forgot I myself used to be. I used to be so much like that. And for some reason, every time I talk to him, I get a little terrified that I'll become like him again. But that feels like such an asshole-ish thought to have, right? It feels really asshole-ish. So I think he might be the main reason as to why I started making this video. I've been playing games with him, I've been talking to him, texting him, and all I can think about is that I would really, really, really not like to become the person he is, which is the kind of person I used to be back then. He's a little older than me, you know? So sometimes I look at him and I feel as if I'm looking into my own future, which feels so terrifying and so irrational because considering my trajectory right now in terms of academics, social life, etc., I'm doing okay. And I should possibly do okay in the future as well, depending. But I'm scared of becoming that person who stays online too much, who's scared of talking to people in real life, who can't leave their home so easily. Because I used to be like that once, and it's not healthy. It never makes you feel good. There are people around you who care about you and they do love you. And in my case, those are my parents. And for the longest time, I was unable to connect with them in a substantial way because I was just so into another world. And so I'm making this video just to, I guess, express my frustrations both with myself and this general phenomenon of, well, I'm not the messiah of this generation, right? I'm just yapping. But there are a lot of people my age, early 20s, who are struggling with this exact same thing. And I expect that if anyone does come across this video and does watch a good part of it, you would probably be able to resonate to some of the things that I say, even if you've come from a different background of, say, interests, online experiences, etc. And it's I really cannot emphasize just how important it is to have a good balance. I'm just saying this again and again and again to myself because I'm trying to remind myself that if I slip and I become that same person who stays in bed for more than 12 hours a day and doesn't try to get sun in my skin, or look at the trees outside, look at bark close by, or speak to people face to face, you forget who you really are. You are unable to build an authentic identity and remember the exact person you are and remember how to speak, which is crazy because our mouths are made to talk. We have a tongue and we have a vocal cord. We have vocal cords for a reason, and that is to express ourselves vocally. And if we get too shy about doing that and instead almost always rely on texting, then, well, I would just say that's an incredibly, incredibly sad reality to live in. And that's a reality that I lived in for so very long. And even though I know it's hard to deal with going outside and expressing yourself in a physically comfortable manner, especially if you're really insecure about your looks, it has to be done. It's really the only way for you to truly feel grounded, in my opinion. And so, I guess I'm just gonna end it off here. I don't expect that a lot of people would watch this, especially till the end, but if you did, thank you. I don't know who else to go to regarding this topic, and so that's why I'm uploading on YouTube, right? Because it's so much easier to talk again to an anonymous platform about these issues. I've vaguely brought it up around friends here and there, but it is hard to be that intimate around people, especially about something that they probably will not really understand, especially if they haven't dealt with these issues to the same extent that you have. So thank you. Thank you.